everyone, my name is Vina aka Miss WC Reader, and welcome back to my channel. And this video is long overdue. I've been promising it to you guys since December, and I wanted to read some books like before I sat down and did it because I really do want to give you guys some good recommendations. And I've been hearing for like the past year people say Legendborn is the only black fantasy, Legendborn is the only black fantasy that has good world building, and kind of really tokenizing that book. So whether you love it or you hate it, I think this video will provide you some great recommendations for what to read next to show you there are other black fantasies out there. And if you've been on my channel before, you know I can't stand tokenization and that I love to share black stories, and hopefully some of these will interest you in picking them up. Let's get into this list. Keep in mind, I did decide that I wanted to do a mix of YA and adult fantasy because let's be honest, it's mostly adults reading the YA fantasies anyway. And even some of these, like, even if it's teens who are starting to read like the YA or are really comfortable reading the YA, maybe they're looking for some more black fantasy and this is like their gateway to adult. Who knows? Kicking it off with a YA, I have Sing Me to Sleep by Gabby Burton, and this has been one of my favorite reads so far this year. Total 5 stars. It is a lot of fun. So we're following this siren named Thersia. She has to conceal her appearance by day, but then by night she goes around killing men for money. And she ends up getting this job where she has to work for the royal family and she can't stand them. And at the same time, somebody starts killing off members of the royal family, or at least attempting to, and she has to help figure out what's going on while also trying to hide her own connections to the possible killers. And the next one is Living Violet by Jamie Reed. So I was a little hesitant of like putting an older book on the list just because I know with older books it's harder for people to like get a hold of them, but at the same time we see how white books from years ago are still revered as like the best thing since sliced bread. And while this is more than 10 years old, there's still a lot that holds up, and if you can read like Twilight and Shadowhunters and all that types of stuff, like Vampire Academy, and still enjoy it, you can definitely pick up this one too because it has like similar vibes to it. So Living Violet follows Samara, and she is working at a bookstore. She's just like a normal teen. She has this weird coworker who has like these violet eyes, and all the girls are like all over him all the time, and she just doesn't understand why. And then she finds out that he secretly has demon powers. And so yeah, it's a lot of fun, definitely nostalgic for that time. If you like your fantasy a little bit more gritty, then I suggest picking up Forging a Nightmare by Patricia Jackson. This is another really good one. So it starts off like with a lot of world building. It takes you a little bit of time to really get into it, but once you do, I think it's a fun ride. So we're following Michael. He is an agent in the FBI. He's investigating the case of this serial killer. He finds out this serial killer is killing people with 12 fingers and 12 toes. And then he finds out that this serial killer actually has some paranormal connections, and he ends up having to take on the mantle of an apocalyptic angel to help fight these evil forces. So Sign of the Slayer is like Full Alchemist meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Egyptian mythology meets a little bit of historical fantasy, all rolled together in this fun urban fantasy adventure. And I really had a good time with this one. Some of it was like very nostalgic, like some of the Buffy stuff isn't really nostalgic for me per se, but I know a lot of people are going to enjoy that, and I think the vibes were still good regardless. It didn't have like that dated feel that sometimes happens when theirs are like inspired by like stuff they used to enjoy. And we're following this young girl named Raven. She is 18, ready to go off to college, and she, like one day after a big game where she's playing in the band, her entire band gets killed by vampires, and she gets rescued by this mysterious vampire who drops her off at this hotel. She finds out that she is a vampire slayer and gets pulled into the Slayer Society, which at this point she's lost like her whole life basically. She has to change her identity and she just wants revenge. So she is snarky. This is really fun. Even though everybody is like 18 plus, it still has like that teen feel, so I think it's still good for like younger readers too, and it feels like a teen story. But it also has like those hallmarks of urban fantasy, if that's what you enjoy, like the obligatory underground club scene, lots of flirting. It's just a really good time. So I think if you're looking for something kind of fun and upbeat, this is a good option. So I actually have not read this one yet. I got it in the mail like a few days ago, but I wanted to include it here because I didn't know about it until recently. I don't think a lot of people have heard about it, and it sounded so interesting to me that I was already reading something from Entangled, and I asked them if they could send it my way. And it is Neverwraith by Shakir Rashan, and it is described as Bel Air meets Cloak and Dagger, and I really haven't watched either of them, so I kind of get the gist from being familiar with both TV shows. And I was really intrigued because, again, this is like the paranormal urban fantasy stuff that I'm always looking forward to, and we don't get a lot written by black men with black male characters. This is set in suburban Georgia, and it just sounds really, really intriguing, and I've been looking for more YA fantasy that feels teenish, and this definitely sounds fun. And of course, it doesn't have like any mention of like racism and stuff in the synopsis, which is something I've been keeping my eye out for as well. So hopefully this is a good time, and I hope you guys will read it with me because I will be reading it soon. So The Witchery is a fantasy that is like a contemporary fantasy set in Florida. It's centered around a magic school which the four main characters attend, and every year during the fall, like around Halloween time, it's what they call the haunting season, where wolves rise up from the swamp and start attacking humans and witches alike. So the four girls, along with two boys from the local all-boys boarding school, have to team up to try and stop the wolves. It is a little trickier because there are 6 POVs to follow in this book, so it is a little bit confusing at first. And this is a duology, so if you like it, book 2 is coming out pretty soon, and you can definitely pick them up and read them back to back. So Magic Dark, Magic Divine by A.J. Locke is an urban fantasy, and this one is a lot of fun. I think if you like a magic system that's not too overly complicated but has fun powers, and you like a badass MC, you're going to enjoy this one. So this follows Penray, who has been asleep for like 300 years, and she wakes up to a world where they no longer have magic, but people still understand that the magic era existed, so they like do fairs dedicated to the magic era. People sell magic era inspired items, but she has to hide her powers in New York City because the world doesn't have magic. She doesn't know how people are going to react. Or at least she thinks the world doesn't have magic. One day she ends up getting attacked by this magic eating monster, and she realizes actually magic didn't fully go away after all. And she has to pick up her warrior mantle again and save the world. There is a little bit of a romance in here, if romance is your thing in fantasy. I know it's my thing. There's just a little bit of slight steam. Son of the Storm by Suhi Davies Akimboa. So this is a really thick epic fantasy. It's African inspired. It's kind of like a pre-colonial Nigeria. We're following Donzo, he's a college student who is training to take on the role of scholar for his people. And then he starts finding out that everything he's been told is lies. He discovers that he is able to wield this special magic, and it takes him on the run with this mysterious woman that he's just met. The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson, and this is another good one. We're following this young woman who has kind of grown up basically on the outskirts of her family because she was the product of, you know, like a frowned upon affair, and so she's living in this very restrictive religious society with her white family, and she just doesn't feel like she belongs, and she starts to get these weird urges, and she's drawn to this mysterious part of the forest. Plague starts to hit their land, and she starts to find out she has these witch powers. And last, I have The Blood Trials by Annie Davenport. I think if you really liked Legendborn, you would enjoy this because it has a lot of the same themes. We follow Ikenna, and she is she's been training her whole life to be a general in the military, and so she's going off to this specialized academy for like this special ops team, and during these trials they're like basically trying to kill them off to see who is the strongest and the fittest. At the same time, this world is very racist against people who look like her, so people are coming at her from all angles trying to get her out of these trials, and it's a really fast-paced, interesting story, and I think you'd have a good time with it. So all fantasies mentioned in this video will be linked in the description box if you're going to buy any of them from Amazon, which I think some of them are at a good discount right now, and you want to use my link, that would really help. I am an affiliate, so I do get like a small percentage of your purchase. And let me know if any of these sound intriguing to you. Let me know if there's any fantasies you think that I should pick up, or any that you've just really enjoyed that you want to share with everybody. And if you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!